Hey guys, Mike here. So today, I'm here to talk to you about 1983's Sleepaway Camp, starring Felissa Rose as Angela. In Sleepaway Camp, Angela Baker, a shy, traumatized young girl, is sent to summer camp with her cousin. However, shortly after arriving, anyone with less honourable intentions get their comeuppance. And so we have Sleepaway Camp. So guys, today's review was requested by one of my subscribers, Barbarian Orc. And before watching and reviewing this movie, I had not seen it before, nor had I ever heard of this one. But because it was requested, I've now watched it. But then they also suggested to do a non-spoiler review for this film, which got me quite interested to see this one, thinking this film would have loads, or at least maybe one thing to spoil. So I've not labelled this review as a spoiler one. I'm going to talk about the things that are less spoilery towards the start of the review, and then towards the end of the review, I'm going to talk about the spoiler things. Just before I get to that point, I will tell you where to skip ahead to so you can get past the spoilers if you don't want to hear them. But in any case, let's get started with Sleepaway Camp. So guys, like I said, I didn't know anything about this film, but I took one look at the poster and thought, okay, this is going to be a horror movie. And there's really no deception there, this is obviously a horror movie. And you know, it's a very simple setup. Girl goes through a tragedy. A couple years later, she goes to a summer camp with her cousin, and, you know, they try and have a good time. And really, there's no mystery as to why she's traumatized, because they show you exactly why it is. So right off the get-go, every time she's in any kind of social situation, you can fully understand why she acts the way she does. But then let's just go on to the performances. Yeah, it's definitely one of the weakest parts of the film. Now, I would say that the kids were fairly decent, though at the same time I do feel like I'm being a bit more lenient because they probably hadn't had as much training or experience in the business. But in any case, the kids were perfectly fine in this film. It's just the grown-ups, the grown-ups were just so bad in this film. Though I would say that their acting definitely suited the style of this movie, which is, you know, low-budget B-movie. And I would say that a lot of the characters don't really go beyond their one-dimensional stereotype. Now, I would say this movie's not really trying to do a deep dive of the human psyche and really seeing what makes people tick or anything like that. But I would say you can have a stereotypical character with a bit more substance to it. Sometimes it just takes the perfect writer or the right actor to just, you know, bring that kind of thing to the screen. But still, without any of those things, these characters don't really go beyond how they're initially presented. Now, like I said, obviously, this is a horror movie. And I would say that it falls into the kind of, you know, slasher territory. And as for the actual kills themselves, they were, you know, fairly creative. The makeup and the effects that were used in the scenes were really well done, and I could tell a large portion of the budget actually went towards making these scenes, and they were really well done. And as well, I would say that even when there's not actually any slashing or murdering going on, this film is, you know, fairly fun. You can see the kids are having fun at the summer camp, and in turn, you feel like you're having fun as well. There's rivalries between different sections of the camp, different genders and whatnot. It's just that usual kid rivalry that you see in movies that you find you do kind of get behind and you're like, yeah, go on, get them. But as well, even though this movie is not labelled as a comedy, there are quite a few points within this film where it just gets ridiculously hilarious. And I would imagine not intentionally, because though some of the earlier kills in the film were creative and creepy, as it gets later on in the film, they just get even more ridiculous and as well just even more hilarious. Because sometimes I would say it's not necessarily what's happening, it's how it's presented. There was this one, which I'll talk about in the spoiler section, which just had me burst out laughing. It was just so ridiculous. And as well, there is a bit of a mystery element to this film as well, because though loads of people are getting killed, you never see who the killer is, you never know who it is. And obviously, the movie is trying to make you think one way, that it's this one person, when clearly it's obviously not. Because the film is doing everything it can to make you think it's that one person, it's obviously a different one. Though, I must admit, there was one point where I did think it was a completely different person, because it made me think of my subscriber's point about saying that I should do a non-spoiler review, because I thought at one point this movie was going to pull the rug from out from my feet and be like, wow, this is the actual twist that you've been waiting for. But alas, I would say that didn't actually happen. Alright guys, I'm going to get into the spoiler elements for this review, so if you don't want to know any spoilers for this film, I would say just skip ahead to this point in time and you'll get past the spoilers. Alright then, you want to hear the spoilers? Let's get into them. Okay, so the kill I was talking about was towards the end with the camp organizer or whatever the hell he was, when he gets an arrow thrown in his neck. My god, it was just so hilarious. I know that makes me sound like a sadistic person, but it's just the way it was done. Like, the arrow was just thrown, and it went, zoom, and it's just his facial expression was like, ugh, and I was, oh nah man, it just made me laugh so much. And like I said with the misdirection, pretty clear that the movie wants you to think that it's Angela's cousin who's doing all these killings, when it's clearly her who's doing it. Because obviously the movie's trying to do everything it can to make you think it's not her. But then, you get to the ending, the bit which I imagine that I was asked to do a non-spoiler review for this movie for. After it's revealed that Angela's the one who's been killing everyone, two of the camp leaders are walking up to her, seeing that she's sitting on the ground naked, stroking someone's head. But then we get a bit of a flashback to her when she was younger, just after her accident, talking to her aunt, who we saw earlier in the movie. And I was looking at this woman just like, I can't tell if this is just a bad performance or whether she's insane. And I would say that it was a bit of both. Because I would say that it's clear that the movie's not really trying to be subtle with this character. They want to show that the lights aren't exactly on upstairs with this one. But then, the big reveal, it turns out that Angela is not a girl. She's actually been a boy this whole time, and that it wasn't the girl who survived the incident at the start of the film, it was the boy. And so this woman has raised this young boy as a girl for most of their lives. And then you see that final shot of the movie where he, whatever, stands up completely naked with an absolutely horrific face covered in blood. And I will admit that that final shot was actually incredible. It really stayed with you. I mean, like, I watched this movie a couple of days ago and that image is still in my head. If the movie failed at absolutely everything else, I would say that you cannot deny the impact that this scene actually had. So I will say bravo to the movie for that final scene. It's just, my only problem with it was that, creepiness aside, I thought this ending was just really stupid. I'm sorry, it's just, I have no other words for it. I just really didn't like the ending. And I would say that it was a mix of things. Because even though I didn't think this movie was entirely terrible, I would say that it wasn't exactly amazing either. And if it was slightly above average, I might have been a bit more forgiving of this ending. But it's just purely the fact of that after experiencing a traumatic experience, the art decides, I'm going to add even more trauma to this person. I'm going to make them think that they're a completely different person. That won't mess them up at all. And I know there are people out there saying that obviously she's gone a bit mad because she's found out that her husband is a homosexual and that's really affected her. But honestly, I don't think that was enough to kind of justify this complete, changing of this character's identity. And even though I would say that it did lay the breadcrumbs for this ending, it still felt very ridiculous to me, I'm sorry. And as well, I'd say I would have been a bit more forgiving had they done more with it as well. But it's just the fact that you have the reveal and that's it, the movie is over, goodbye. If they'd had a bit more time for you to actually experience this revelation, maybe have her kill some more people, or maybe have her taken away by the police, or have characters talk about it, just something like that. But no, all you really get is the reveal, and that's it, over. So, I mean, I can understand why so many people love this ending, and I do think that it is very creative, and it does definitely catch you off guard. I just found that having a twist ending didn't really save this movie from being anything more than it was. Just an average B-movie slasher, which at the end of the day is what this movie is. Overall, guys, Sleepaway Camp was definitely a mixed bag for me. But while I don't think this film is terrible, I don't think it's particularly great either. The kids' performances are decent, whereas the adults' ones are not. The kills are creative, though later on they do get very silly. And I would say that the characters and the actors and everyone who made this film did look like they had fun making it. But do I think you guys should watch this one? Honestly, after everything, I personally wouldn't recommend this film. Because even though the ending itself was fairly decent, I would say that watching the whole movie to get to that ending just really wasn't worth it at the end of the day. Again, I can understand why so many people enjoy this film, and probably why I'm in the minority when it comes to this film. But I gotta be honest, I just didn't really think this movie was all that. Maybe if I watched this film when I was a bit younger, I might have felt differently. But as it stands right now, Sleepaway Camp was just kinda Okay guys, that's my review of Sleepaway Camp. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What do you think I should watch next? Whatever it is, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!